All right, welcome to a new episode of Statement Games Live. Statement Games Live is presented to you by Statement Games Incorporated, the most innovative alternative free-to-play alternative fantasy sports platform operating in the gaming industry. For our gaming innovation, our platform has been highlighted on ABC, CBS, Fox, and NBC. I'm here with Mark Salino, founder, CEO of Statement Games. Mark, why should we listen? Why should people listen to this show?
How's everyone doing today? Pleasure kind of being back on the show as always. Little different twist this year, or this week. We're changing things up. We got a little bit of a different format for Statement Games Live, but in this particular aspect, the component of the show, we're going to do our best to cover and provide some insights on what's taking place in the sports gaming world here. And of course, we're going to draw a little bit of a comparison to how this kind of news affects Statement Games as a company. And we feel that we're putting together a little program here that's pretty much like an ideal for sports marketers, content creators, bloggers, vloggers, influencers, because then they get like an inside look on what you and I actually go through as entrepreneurs trying to cement our space or carve out a little corner in the sports world here. So our journeys and our stories are, some of them are good, some of them are pretty painful, but
Yeah.
we got a lot to share, and we're creating a little bit of a platform that we feel that people will get some value from learning what works for us, what doesn't work, and hopefully they can kind of apply it to what they got going on with their own social media world, brands,
Mm-hmm.
aspirations of whether they're trying to do in sports.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that, let's jump right into the sports gaming news. What do you got for us this week, Mark?
There's been a lot. There's been a lot that's kind of taken place here, and you and I have kind of talked about this, and this is why we've kind of carved out a little bit of a different format for Statement Games Live, because we're always kind of going back and forth here, trying to cram all of the good and exciting stuff and bad stuff or interesting stuff that's taking place in the sports gaming world here, and we kind of find that it's overlapping with other segments such as
Mm-hmm.
making picks and all that other stuff here. So we really want to spend a little bit more time on really calling out what's going on in the gambling world here. Like I said here, there's a lot. I'll basically just start with the state of Virginia. The state of Virginia has joined the sports gaming party. It looks like people or residents within the state of Virginia are going to be able to start placing sports bets from mobile devices, computers, and things like that just prior to the Super Bowl. We'll keep an eye on that. We'll kind of see, you know, how that whole process kind of progresses. It's a really kind of interesting and exciting time from a sports gaming perspective. I actually just read a report here and where the U.S. is actually expecting to generate about $3 billion in sports related revenue, sports gaming related revenue in 2021. So I thought that was kind of really interesting to kind of call out as we get a little bit deeper now into a brand new year. As a result of Virginia, I kind of counted. I'm not sure if you're seeing anything kind of different, but it now looks like up to about 14 more states could join the sports gaming party, so to speak, and where they start to regulate the activity a little bit more and offer those
Mm-hmm.
types of services to consumers and things like that.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
been kind
definitely a
of
growing movement.
yeah. Again, there's a lot. I mean, we're not even freaking scratching the surface on the sports gaming news here, what's been taking place in the past couple of weeks. I'm also looking at, some updated kind of reports and trends as I update and revise the Statement Games business model and update pitch decks and all that other fun stuff here. But it now looks like by 2026, revenue projections for the sports gaming industry is now kind of approaching about 10 billion with some of these new states kind of coming online here. And I really don't think that's a bad story. I think it's kind of a very interesting story when you look at it from the perspective of this industry didn't exist 3 years ago.
Yep.
So, and we're just kind of really touching on some high level points here, but that's kind of what I got. I got some more here. I'm going to just shut up for a second, kick it back over to you, and see if you have anything to add on Virginia, new kind of
Mhm.
projections, and maybe there's some other things that you've actually seen or picked up on here with those couple key points in mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a big time for sports betting in general, and especially in the U.S. And we kind of say it every episode. It seems like that. With the pandemic, states are strapped for cash, and this is a growing movement that's just gonna be sped up because they all want a piece of the pie. But it's just interesting having, obviously grown up where this wasn't a thing. And then when I did want to bet, you had to go through like offshore accounts for like Bovada out of China or different companies. I even remember back not that long ago when just playing online gambling, just not even about sports, but like cards and playing poker online was such a big no-no. And then you had to go through like offshore, like Europe servers and everything. So the fact that the United States is finally getting in line with the fact that this is not a terribly bad thing to allow people to have some fun with the money that they could walk into a casino and bet with if they wanted. It's time to get in line with the rest of the world and keep our revenue, keep our money in the States here. So it's I look forward to what's coming, and for, like you said, just 3 years of growth. This is going to be big.
2018 is when that first stuff kind of like with New Jersey came out, and at the time Governor Chris Christie. So it's multi-billion-dollar kind of industry in 3 years, and a lot of activity and things like that coming onto the foreground of the industry. It's just interesting, and it's important to kind of keep an eye on it, specifically when you take a look at what we're doing from a day-to-day perspective here, because a lot of this stuff in one way, shape, or form or another ties into what we're doing kind of daily, and we'll touch upon that. But go ahead, just I got a couple, like I would call them slides or visuals or something like that, but as we kind of go through some of these points here, just through just some additional kind of visuals. We'll definitely keep an eye on what takes place in the case of Virginia. I kind of feel like a little bit bad because this is something that we called out on our show a couple of weeks back here. We came down on the owner of the Las Vegas Sands Corporation, Sheldon Adelson, a couple of weeks ago. I mean, it's pretty well documented that here's an individual that has made a lot of political contributions and donations, specifically to Republican congressmen, senators, so on and so forth here. At the time and over the past couple of years, a very big advocate or somebody who's been against online gaming. So I know that we kind of came down on him. I know that he kind of reversed or changed his positions just recently, and that was, I guess, the topic of our show that dropped just prior to Christmas. But in the past couple of days there, unfortunately, he did pass away at 87 years old. But hey, you know what? I guess being in the casino business, sports gaming business, being at the forefront of all this action for a number of different years, getting to 87 here, I guess you can't really complain about the run that this individual has had, right?
Yeah. Get up there, make your money. Do your thing. I guess. I mean, it makes sense from a casino perspective. For the longest time, sports gambling online was a draw away from their funds. Now, if you really think about it, and this is, I feel like there's so many companies that have tried to stand in the way of the internet or the progress that comes from a more connected society, and they generally lose. So I think looking at it right now, casinos are probably kicking themselves for not trying to fund and get a piece of what's coming, as far as legalized sports betting and all of that stuff, and getting set up, because like you saw DraftKings, you saw FanDuel just rise up over the course of, I don't know, like they seem to come out of nowhere. Like they went from startup to established, like multi-billion-dollar company in a season. They were putting up commercials in the Super Bowl and all that kind of stuff. Like that was quick and rapid. And if casinos would have been part of that, Sheldon Adelson, any of the other major heads, they would be now in a position with this pandemic of not losing that foot traffic. They just have, I guess you'd call it thumb traffic.
Thumb traffic. You know what? I think we might have to jot that down and use that reference in the future. I like that thumb traffic. Okay.
Yeah, there it is.
Well, again, like we had mentioned, 14 states are looking to kind of join the action. Um, I'll get to this slide in a second here, but I did kind of want to point out here now, as we record this, I'm pretty sure that this is already will have happened by the time this little segment kind of airs. But it looks like Michigan is joining the fray as well. So Michigan is expected to launch Real Money Gaming soon, if it hasn't done so already. We'll keep an eye on that. I guess we'll give people like a little bit of an update on how that kind of transpires here. But I think by the time we record next week, or by the time this actually launches here, this is going to be kind of old news. But it's worth mentioning. What's worth mentioning, not only from an aspect of kind of going live here, but in taking a look at some of the initial projections that the state of Michigan is looking to do. And again, another state that's hurting for money can use all the help they can actually get from a revenue kind of perspective here. This market's expected to do something that's a lot bigger than New Jersey, which has pretty much been like the golden cow or the guy at the top of the totem pole here as this industry kind of progresses. And I just want to kind of point out that in the month of December, this past kind of December, New Jersey processed $6 billion worth of bets just in the month of December alone.
Damn.
So when you kind of take a look at, that's not necessarily revenue, that's just
Right.
the number or
Just
the amount of bets that were actually processed here. I'll probably look to provide like a little bit of an update. I'm not sure what the commission or the cut or the licensing fees for the state of Michigan kind of is. But let's just kind of call it 1%, just to kind of give big ballpark pictures and things like that here. That's not a bad gig, taking a 1% cut of something that's projected to do about $6 billion worth of transactions over the course of a month.
Yeah, no,
but
absolutely.
Look, you're a little bit more of a Northeastern transplant at the time, but your roots are Michigan. So let's kick it back over to you to give some kind of comments on what you actually think about sports gaming coming to your home state.
Yeah, no, it's a need as far as a revenue aspect. I mean, we keep talking about how all of these states have budget problems because of the pandemic. Michigan has had a budget problem since, I don't know, the 90s. When did Detroit collapse? Like they have been needing something like this to infuse revenue into their state for probably 30 years, 40 years. And so seeing them finally take these, they had just legalized marijuana that came recreational marijuana that came out, I think last year. Shops just starting to kind of come around, but Michigan has a long tradition of gambling. As far as like, there's a lot of Native American reservations, and generally speaking, most of all of them have a casino on them. So as a culture, as a community, it was a very common practice to, you turn 18, you go to the casino. And now we're not talking like major casinos. This isn't Mohegan Sun, Foxwoods, the Vegas Sands. These are like, I don't know, the size of a gymnasium. And, like I said, in a previous show, when we went to the local casino out there on my honeymoon, 2 people in it. I mean, 2 people, which is really small. If there were 2 people in Mohegan Sun, you'd never see them. Like they would be somewhere, like we're talking about a 5-room casino, 5, I don't know, they're not that big rooms either. So they're just scattered everywhere. So it's a very cultural thing in Michigan to go gambling and to, go to the casino. So now you take it to the next step of sports betting and all of that and allowing that. And I think it's going to be big. I think it's going to be a major, Michigan will be a major market for sports betting.
hey, we'll see what happens here. And I got this slide up like, right here. I mean, we just went through, a lot of activity taking place in the gaming space here. We started off and we led with what's kind of like, transpired in the state of Virginia and progressed all the way to, what recently has, I believe, already kind of like, taken place by the time this little video airs in Michigan. But kind of like, going back to Virginia here, I don't think it's any particular surprise that this new stuff in Virginia has come out here with the recent announcement of the Washington Nationals teaming up with BetMGM and basically looking to open up, whether you want to call it, little casinos or little kind of like, sports books kind of inside the stadium. But it looks like that is moving forward. I really thought that was interesting to call out here because from a Statement Games perspective, I was actually in Nationals Park probably around this time last year. I believe it was actually the first week of February, but it was kind of like around kind of like this time last year. And we talked about different white labeling opportunities with the Statement Games platform and how that can actually be of use to the Washington Nationals. And they kind of had always said to me, hey, you know what, and this is, right before the proverbial crap had hit the fan with COVID and things like that here is where we were getting kind of like, close to naming a real money gaming provider. And the analogy that my contact had made was it's important for us to kind of like, not name our primary contractor who they're going to be from a gaming perspective before we can start, going down the line and figuring out who our subcontractors are, basically referring to the fact of how Statement Games could potentially be a smaller component, and that's fair, to what could be taking place from a grand scheme perspective here. So that was a year ago. So it just kind of like, shows you how much of an impact COVID and this kind of like, pandemic has had like on the sports world here, and where at the time you had an organization literally looking to make an announcement in days leading up to opening day, and kind of like holding off on that announcement almost a full year later. So I guess the answer that I had from my contact at the time is who that primary contractor would be. Hey, a little late here, but we've finally gotten our answer on who those individuals are, and I will continue to follow up the Washington Nationals and work with them and exploring opportunities on how the Statement Games product or platform can be utilized as a incubator product, or a, let's call it from a baseball analogy perspective, a farm system for casual fans who are not necessarily ready to make sports prop bets in stadium kind of like book right now, but still giving them opportunities to compete in different forms of prop betting and fantasy sports through our free-to-play technology. So I wanted to touch upon like that stuff here. A little bit of a mistake on my end in the ordering of the slides, so I'll kind of like jump back up to over here. And now I guess this kind of like takes us to our next segment, which is, hey, you know what? You got all this cool stuff and exciting stuff taking place in the gaming industry. What does this actually mean for Statement Games? So I'm not sure if you just want me to continue to talk about that, or if you want to throw in a thought or interject on your own, or hey, you know,
Go right ahead,
I'm on a
man.
roll here. I can keep going here.
Rolling.
Well, we're continuing to have dialogues with VCs as well as accelerator programs, and I'll kind of like get into that into our next segment. But the answer is pretty much like standard, and we've touched upon this on past shows kind of like before as well, which still kind of like leads to the fact here, and I'm looking at that number in the bottom left-hand corner of the side here. According to our calculations and projections, when you take a look at the fact that 60% of the U.S. population have identified themselves as sports fans. Well, if I take a look at, all right, you know what, the U.S. population is anywhere between 330, 340 million people, about 60% of that, kind of like that's where you get the 220 number. And if I take a look at the fact that 40% of that 220 million, from a gaming perspective, yeah, I mean that's a huge particular number, and presents large opportunities within the gaming operator space here. But you're still kind of left with 88 million people who are just not ready. They're just not ready to embark on these gaming, real money gaming kind of products, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not sports fans. These are still passionate individuals who care about their teams. They like to compete through intramural competition or in a variety of different forms of traditional fantasy sports or in daily fantasy sports. And we feel that our product is a great fit for these individuals. We'll continue to monitor the real money gaming space. It's something that we might want to dip our toes in at some point, like in the future. But we're still in the process of building a brand. We're still in the process of getting our core technology polished up and finished off. And at this particular time, we're going to be staying put and doing and continuing to do what we do on a day-to-day basis right now. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we'll not get into real money gaming solutions or services at some point in the future. We feel and we strongly believe this as an organization that there's a big portion of the public that needs a little bit of an educational process in a fun way to get them over the hump into different aspects of sports gaming related products, especially from a prop gaming perspective. So I'll kick it over to you for your thoughts and comments.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you're very accurate with where the market is and the market potential. I mean, it's what we get into this for, is to get a little piece of that pie. And I mean, $88 million or 88 million people spending their dollars. That's a very large market.
They still buy jerseys. They're still buying tickets. They're still spending discretionary income on sports. But and look, still, I mean, new president, new year, and things like that. And a big part of what I do in my job is not only speaking with advertisers, marketers, white label prospects and things like that. It's speaking with fans, especially fans who are in the Statement Games environment playing our game here. And yeah, you can actually take these slides off now. I think those are the only visuals that I want to show here. But I'm constantly looking for feedback from casual fans, like what do you like about Statement Games? What don't you like here? Obviously, you're familiar with some of the other larger operators that are on the market today. You're aware of MGM and the Borgata down in Atlantic City here. Is there anything that prevents you or stops you from making sports bets online or in person here? Like, well, what's the blocker? What is the challenges? And it's still 3 core answers that I get in response to that question here. It's tough times, man. This is some crazy stuff with this pandemic here. I'm not sure if I'm going to freaking have a job next week here. So in terms of spending discretionary income on gambling related service here, it's not necessarily like an option for me here. So economic environments, pandemic here. It's crazy stuff that's taking place in Washington D.C. still, even with the changing of the president. So or President Trump now, kind of like with President Biden. So there's still some political uncertainty, combining that with economic unrest here. So all of these different things, in one way, shape, or form or another, they affect our consumer behavior. So. We don't want to come across and say that, hey, you know what, the gambling industry is not going to boom. I mean, we just kind of projected, what do we just talked about, the state of New Jersey doing $6 billion in bets over here. So people are gravitating to these products and they'll continue to do so here. And that's fantastic. We're kind of playing in the space, and we'll continue to play in the space, and where we still feel that there's a percentage of the market that's being ignored. And we feel that we can get them over the hump and educate these people with products like Statement Games. And we also feel that with that educational process and with the things that we're doing, like on the back end, there will eventually come a point and we'll have a great opportunity as an organization to leverage the relationship that we've built with consumers on a free-to-play product and help people like FanDuel or DraftKings in terms of converting casual fans into real money players at some point in the future. So that's what all this stuff currently, means with Statement Games and what we're actually thinking about from an organization at this particular current time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other big thing, because I mean, economics is huge in a mass populace matter with sports betting. I think also it comes down to knowledge and confidence, which I've seen with my guys, and this is a very micro level, but I know of one of my writers who has some economic problems right now, and money is a major issue. He still continues to place some prop bets, and he was actually able to hit it pretty big. I think it was last week he scored like $800 off of like 5 or 6 parlays in the
Nice.
football game, and it was low money bet. I think it was like $5, but this guy knows the sport. He knows who to be placing his picks on and everything. And I think that's where Statement Games also has the opportunity of helping people learn what it is to play and do this and get the confidence to go from a free to play app or game into the payment paid gaming spheres. So I think that's just one of the major hurdles too with people is just coming in and they don't just want to throw their money at bad bets. So
Yeah, and look, I kind of talk about this like a lot as well, and I'm going back some time here, but it's not like this is that long ago. But there was a point in time in this country's history and where horse racing was a pretty big freaking kind of sport, one of the sports, the biggest sport, if not the most popular sport, kind of in this country. And take a look at where it is now. Now I understand that other sports have come to the market, and just by sheer kind of attrition here, people have gravitated to these other sports with the change kind of the times here. But if you go to a racetrack, or if you kind of ask the common sports fan, hey, what's preventing you from going watching a horse race, or besides from watching the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, or the Belmont Stakes here, why wouldn't you kind of get involved with different aspects of horse racing here? And a lot of the feedback that I've actually gotten through polls and speaking kind of with people, just as we've done our research, kind of leading into the involvement of Statement Games, we just don't know enough about it. Like, we don't understand racing forms here. We don't know the terminology of trifectas, exacta boxes, win place kind of show here. There's all these different things. It's a very fast paced kind of environment here. And and I'm kind of referring to the prop betting space right now. If you're not careful, and if you're not kind of incubating and developing your consumer base right now and educating them on what a parlay is, or what a 3-team reverse is, or hey, what's an over under bet on a starting quarterback, passing over a certain amount of yards per game here, and giving them that experience, to think that these casual fan bases or casual fans are just gonna flick a switch and start placing bets on whether a kicker is going to make a field goal or not here. I feel that I can make a compelling argument against that. Your diehards are going to be there, and they'll continue to be here. We're talking about casual people, the people that you need to get over the hump. And I could be, drinking my own Kool-Aid here. I just don't feel that there's enough products on the market that are doing a good job in introducing, educating, and interacting with these types of fans, all in an effort to get them ready for what could potentially be a good opportunity for everybody at some point in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's move the conversation on and get into the Statement Games news. You've got a few things lined up here that you wanted to touch on.
Yep. So basically, just give everybody like a little bit of an idea of what's taking place at Statement Games here. So I wanted to welcome Gabriel Conrad to the Statement Games team. He joined the Statement Games team as a marketing intern. He's going to be working with us in different components of content creation as well as SEO. So again, it's a program. Anybody who's listening and is out there that's interested in getting some experience or getting their feet wet within the sports industry, companies like Statement Games or individuals like you and the IDP guys here, we'll welcome you with open arms. And of course, as we grow and develop, that could open up some other opportunities with our organizations moving forward, or we're just giving you kind of a good experience that you take a stamp and you carry that stamp with you for wherever you want to go in the sports industry. Mm-hmm. So I also wanted to just kind of call out the fact that Statement Games is pretty active on social media. It's at Statement Games, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We're getting more active on YouTube. We're also doing a lot of stuff on LinkedIn here. Follow us. Keep an eye on us here, especially leading up in the upcoming days here. I got a couple of cash Amazon gift cards that I'm looking to give away here. You're not going to be able to have an opportunity to take advantage of those opportunities if you're not plugged into the Statement Games network on social media. We're pretty excited leading up to this weekend here. You got UFC 257, so we're pretty excited about seeing what happens with this Poirier and McGregor, fight number 2, fight taking place on pay-per-view. Of course, those games will be available for play on Statement Games here, and it's a great way to practice some mixed martial arts or prop bets in the fight world here. So, keep your eye on it for that. We continue to do some great work here. We got a new partner that we've been working with the past couple, week and a half now, Into the Labs podcast, great kind of football podcast. So for the upcoming Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus Green Bay Packers game here, people who are playing that game on the Statement Games platform happen to be VIP members, have a chance to pick up like 3,000 additional coins through their performance level in this upcoming game here. VIP program with Statement Games continues to grow. We're doing some good things with this program. Anybody who has an interest in joining this program should be contacting us at marketing@statementgames.com or simply dropping a comment in the comment section below. And you've helped us out with this. It's been an extensive, process, but we finally got through everything with Stadia Ventures. Officially this past Wednesday, we've gotten through all of our interview processes. All of the due diligence is done. We've made some great contacts just through this initial process here. I'll continue to keep people posted here, but basically, fingers crossed. Let's see what happens. I think, myself and Jonathan, with the help of you and even some of the other guys that have helped out Statement Games, I'm really proud of the effort that we've put forward. And what happens here, but we're not going to lose out on this opportunity because we put forth a half-assed effort. I can pretty much guarantee that. And I can see that the contacts that we've made through this process here are already starting to pay off dividends. But we'll keep everybody posted and see what happens from there. So that's what's going on with Statement Games for this past week.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, you're in sports, so you got to leave it all on the field, right? So,
yeah.
There you go. But let's move on.
Yeah, I was going to say to close everything out here. I mean, usually we like to give some kind of insight and things like that of best practices, what's working for us, some do's and some don'ts and things like that here. But I mean, I'd be remiss. I mean, this was a freaking absolute layup this week here when you kind of tying in some of the things that have taken place in the sports news. But I'll let you take over and talk a little bit about it here and what you're about to talk about here as a nugget of truth for this week here. I'm going to put a big check mark and I'm going to cast my vote as what you're about to describe as something that you should not be doing, whether it's in the business world here, personal life, so on and so forth. And I'll let you take it away.
Yeah. So the Mets fired their GM, Jared Porter, for sending a penis picture.
And I do have one visual up here if you want to go back to the slides.
Oh, okay. It's not the picture of the text
message. It's not a picture, but whatever. We're having a little fun with the show here, and
there it is.
Instead of giving people, extended periods of time of just looking at our mugs here, let's throw in some visuals.
Yeah, for sure. So Jared Porter sent a dick pic to a female reporter, and along with a slew of about 50 text messages, and he got outed for it, which he should. And the Mets swiftly fired him, let him go. So, yeah, that's definitely on the don't do it list.
Personal
just in
level.
general,
yeah, good.
It's not something that I don't know any. There was a thread on Twitter where someone was actually asking, "Has this ever been successful for anyone?" Just calling it out.
And, I've been just tying into a business perspective. I mean, look, there's whether it's personal, business, and things like that. We're always chasing opportunities or dialogue that is exciting, and I guess you can kind of get a little carried away here. But I can pretty much draw the same analogy from a business perspective. I've done it. I've seen other people kind of doing it to me. But if you're chasing an opportunity and you're at your 60th email or 60th voicemail message with that executive, and you're not getting any type of feedback or response back here, it could be kind of your cue after an extended period of time that it might be time to search for a new contact or a new opportunity.
Yeah, take a hint. I get this. I get this so often when someone they see that I own a website, I'm an entrepreneur, I've got things going on. and they're trying to sell me so hard that like they don't take a hint, where it's like, no man, I don't want anything of what you're selling. I think last week I told you about how someone was trying to sell me website design. Like,
Yeah.
hey, look at my profile. I'm a website
Yeah.
designer. You're preaching to the wrong crowd here. So
Yep. So no pun intended. This week's nugget of truth: don't send your nuggets in digital or video formats to anybody. Just don't do it.
yeah,
I guess we can just kind of like leave it at that.
don't do
Especially
it.
if whatever.
Take a
But
hint.
I'm sure
Yeah.
this individual has learned his lesson. Seems like a decent guy. Just made him a costly kind of like a mistake, and hopefully things kind of like get better, and he rebounds and is back kind of like in the game, so to speak, sooner rather than later. I don't think he'll land at a GM position, but
Mm.
let's see what happens.
Yeah, we sure will. And for our audience out there, make sure you don't make a costly mistake and tune in for Making Picks, which is now a separate show. Follow us on all social media at Statement Games. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and play statementgames.com. Great show this week, Mark, and look forward to
See
the
you in a little
next one.
bit. Yep.
Yeah.